Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the case of Sarah Boone? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoy this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I will put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. First, I'll look at the background of this case. I'll move to the timeline of the alleged crime, then offer my analysis. Sarah Boone lived with her boyfriend, George Torres Jr., in Winter Park, Florida. In February of 2020, both Sarah and George were 42 years old. George was a divorced father of three who had an unstable work history and a few run-ins with the law. The couple's relationship appeared to be unstable. Neighbors complained the couple would play loud music in their apartment, and they said the police were frequent visitors. I don't think the police were there to share in the festivities. There was an alleged domestic violence incident in 2018, which resulted in both Sarah and George being arrested. Nothing ever came of those arrests. In June of 2019, George was arrested for attacking Sarah. He was put on probation as a result. Now moving to the timeline of the alleged crime. On the morning of February 24, 2020, Sarah Boone called her ex-husband at around 12:50 p.m. He arrived at her apartment 10 minutes later and advised her to call 911, which she did. Sarah told the dispatcher, "My boyfriend is dead." She was referring to George. The police arrived and found that George Torres was dead. It was later determined he died from positional asphyxiation. He had damage to his lip, bruises on his shoulder and head, and scratches on his back. Sarah was interviewed by the police. Here's what happened according to Sarah. On the evening of February 23, 2020, Sarah and George were painting, assembling puzzles, and drinking Chardonnay. For some reason, they decided to play hide and seek. It seems like an awfully small area to play that game. I guess they didn't want anything too challenging. It was like remedial hide and seek. Sarah said that she hid in the upstairs shower, but George did not find her. So maybe the remedial level was the right choice after all. At this point, they thought it would be funny if George climbed inside of a suitcase and Sarah zipped him in it. I'm not sure these two really understood the concept behind hide and seek. Sarah believed that George would be fine because he was capable of getting two of his fingers outside of the suitcase. She thought he would be able to unzip himself. At this point, Sarah decided to go upstairs and climb in bed. She fell asleep not long after this. The next morning, she remained upstairs after waking up, believing that her boyfriend was downstairs using his laptop to look for employment. When she finally decided to go downstairs, she found her boyfriend's body in the suitcase and called her ex-husband. This led to her calling 911. The police asked Sarah for permission to search her phone, which she granted. They found two videos on that phone that didn't look too good for Sarah. The first video started at 11:12 p.m. on February 23 and lasted for about 2 minutes. It featured Sarah recording the suitcase containing her boyfriend. It looked like she was recording it from a distance of maybe 4 to 8 feet, fairly close either way. They are having a conversation as George was trapped in the suitcase. He was calling out her name, saying, "Sarah." She responded by saying, "That's my name, don't wear it out." He then said, "I can't blank breathe, seriously." Sarah responded, "Yeah, that's what you do when you choke me." He once again said he couldn't breathe. Sarah responded, "That's on you." This same exchange was repeated. George then says, "I can't breathe." Sarah responds, "That's what I feel like when you cheat on me." George once again indicates that he cannot breathe. Sarah responds, "You should probably shut the blank up." The second video started at 11:23 p.m. on February 23 and lasted 22 seconds. In this video, the suitcase was flipped over and moved a few feet from where it had been in the first video. George can be heard calling out Sarah's name repeatedly. Sarah was questioned about the videos when being interviewed by detectives at the police station. She claimed that she didn't remember making them, but she acknowledged that the videos looked bad. When asked about the injuries that her boyfriend had sustained, Sarah denied causing them and suggested that she did not fight with her boyfriend around the time he died. She stated that George had fallen off of her son's bike and that he was notorious for running into walls and the hall tree. Sarah claimed that the scratches were caused by sex. A neighbor said that late on February 23, they heard a loud noise coming from Sarah's apartment. It was like something was falling down the stairs. Sarah had been investigated 4 years earlier after posting an image of a child being zipped into a suitcase. Nothing came of that investigation, but it's strange that she was fascinated with people being in suitcases. Sarah was charged with second-degree murder. At the time making this video, Sarah Boone is awaiting trial. There have been a few delays. Now moving to my analysis. Was Sarah Boone actually guilty of second-degree murder? As I mentioned, her trial is coming up. Clearly the state believes that she is guilty, although she of course maintains the presumption of innocence. Let's take a look at the evidence both for and against the idea that Sarah was guilty, starting with the inculpatory evidence. Sarah zipped George in the suitcase, by her own admission. He said he couldn't breathe. Sarah recorded that on her phone. She did not render aid. George died as a result. Sarah Boone did not call 911 immediately. Rather, she called her ex-husband. Sarah appeared to admit that she did intend to keep George in the suitcase at least for 5 minutes. On the video she recorded, Sarah behaved in a sadistic manner, and she appeared to supply a motive for her actions, namely revenge. She alleged that George choked her and cheated on her. George had a number of injuries that are not explained. Perhaps the loud noise heard by the neighbor was caused by Sarah pushing the suitcase down the stairs with George in it. Moving to the exculpatory evidence, both individuals were intoxicated. Perhaps this was just some type of terrible accident. That's pretty much it for exculpatory evidence. When considering all the factors, do I think that Sarah Boone was guilty of second-degree murder? Yes, I think she was guilty in reality and guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. I believe that Sarah intentionally killed George. Moving to the next section, here are my thoughts on a few areas that stood out to me in this case. Item number 1. If Sarah had never recorded herself letting George die in the suitcase, she probably never would have been charged with a crime, or at least the crime would have been much less serious than second-degree murder. If she had deleted the recordings, she would have likely obtained the same result, that is, escaping responsibility. Sarah actually supplied the police with the evidence they needed to charge her with murder. Sarah acted as though she was surprised when the police showed her the recordings. I think she did remember making the recordings, but she did not remember exactly what she said when she made them. I don't think she remembered how cruel and sadistic her behavior was. Item number 2. During her interview with detectives, Sarah made a number of negative comments about George. She said that George would come at her all the time. She would have to run away to remain safe. He would get intoxicated and belligerent. Sarah claimed that she documented injuries that she sustained at the hands of George on her cell phone. She asked the police if they had seen any of the videos and images on the phone. I find this interesting because it was almost like she was inviting them to look at her phone, like whatever was on that phone was going to help her. Item number 3, considering Sarah's negative characterization of her relationship with George and her low opinion of him in general, the police acted as if they were surprised that she stayed with him. I doubt they were actually surprised because I'm sure they've seen this many times. Sarah's reasoning for remaining with George was that she loved him. She took care of him. She missed him a lot. And she bailed him out of jail 3 times. This was her idea of making a good argument that they had true love. Item number 4. During Sarah's initial conversation with the police, she denied that anybody was drinking that evening. During her interview at the police station, her story changed. Now she indicated that she had been drinking. This is what caused her to go upstairs and fall asleep. She did not intend to leave George in the suitcase. It was the fault of the alcohol. It does appear as though Sarah was drinking. She sounded as though she was intoxicated on that first video, and the police interviewed several witnesses in the neighborhood who said that Sarah was intoxicated on a daily basis. I think it's reasonable to believe that both Sarah and George were drinking regularly, and alcohol was a major part of their lives. Sarah told the detectives that she would never drink alcohol again. Well, if she stays in prison for life, that may be true. Item number 5. Sarah tried to make the argument to detectives that her unkind behavior on the videos was not meant to be malicious. Rather, she suggested that it was typical of the light-hearted banter that she would exchange with George. They were just joking with one another. I suppose this was just the ordinary sadistic and homicidal exchanges that any couple would have. Sarah explained to the police that nobody understands the relationship between her and George. I think the problem for Sarah is that people do understand it. Sarah appeared to be quite upset with George about numerous specified and unspecified offenses that he had committed. She managed to get George in a bad position, probably due to his drinking. She took advantage of that bad position, probably due to her being disinhibited from alcohol. So alcohol made contributions to both sides of the equation. It explains the behavior of both Sarah and George. Sarah claimed that leaving George in the suitcase was unintentional, but she also said that maybe she meant to give him 5 minutes or so in there. I think this statement damages her case quite a bit and shows that she did want him to suffer. Now moving to the final item, number 6, Sarah made a few statements to detectives that could be interpreted as narcissistic. She noted that she was a straight A student in school. She said, "I always know what to do and how to do it, and I excel at everything." That last statement is fairly hard to believe. At a minimum, she did not excel at hide and seek. Most people can play that game with no loss of life. Those are my thoughts on the case of Sarah Boone. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be informative. Thanks for watching.